Welcome to FableCast.
Look, we're all swimming in this constant stream of information, right? Our articles, emails, notifications, it just never stops. It feels like you're drowning sometimes. So the big question is, how do you actually cut through all that noise? How do you figure out what really matters and, become properly informed? Today, we're going to dive into something called deep work. It's this idea that's not just about being more effective, but maybe even finding a more meaningful way to live and work. So our mission here is to unpack what deep work really is, why it's actually super valuable right now, why it seems so darn rare, and most importantly, give you some real strategies to try it out. We've looked at a bunch of research, some really compelling insights. Think of this as your shortcut. Okay, let's get into it.
Yeah, it's really interesting because this isn't exactly new. I mean, the core ideas, the behaviors, you see them pop up throughout history with some really influential people.
Right. It's not just some modern productivity trend. So let's start there. What is deep work exactly? Can we nail that down?
Okay, so basically, deep work is when you're doing professional stuff in a state of complete focus, no distractions, and it's not just busy work. It's about pushing your thinking, your cognitive abilities right to their limit.
Pushing the limits.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this kind of effort, it creates genuinely new value.
Yep.
It makes you better at what you do, improves your skills, and crucially, it's the kind of work that's really hard for someone else to just jump in and replicate.
And like you said, it's not new. You think about Carl Jung, right? Building that remote stone tower place, bowling in, no electricity. He'd get up at 7 a.m., 2 hours straight, writing, thinking. He said it gave him this intense, repose and renewal.
Totally. Or Mark Twain writing in that isolated shed his family had to blow a horn to get him for meals. Or Woody Allen even. 44 films in 44 years, all on a manual typewriter. Never even owned a computer.
It's wild.
And J.K. Rowling, too. Remember how she was completely off social media writing Harry Potter? Her staff actually set up her Twitter for her later. Her only tweet for a year and a half was basically, yeah, it's me, but don't expect much. Pen and paper come first.
No.
Even Bill Gates, the tech giant himself, he had his famous Think Weeks, totally isolated, twice a year. That's where the huge internet tidal wave memo came from.
It really makes you stop and think, doesn't it? This pattern across centuries, across totally different fields. What's the fundamental thing here?
Well, what's fascinating, I think, is just how consistent it is. This need for intentional isolation, for really deep, unbroken focus to produce something significant. It kind of forces you to ask if our modern, always-on culture is maybe missing something.
Yeah.
Or actively working against that kind of truly breakthrough work.
Yeah, which brings us neatly to this economic angle. These MIT guys, Brynjolfsson and McAfee, they talk about a great restructuring happening right now because of digital tech. And the takeaway seems pretty stark, right? Technology connects us, sure, but the real value, the big rewards, they seem to be flowing to people who can master focus, not just connectivity. It's almost like a winner-take-all situation.
That's exactly it. While lots of jobs might get automated or outsourced, they identify three groups who are really thriving. First, you've got the high-skilled workers who can really learn and work deeply with these new intelligent machines.
Like Nate Silver, the polling guy?
Precisely. He didn't just use statistical software. He mastered complex systems, deep understanding. It's way beyond just Googling something.
Okay, so that's group one. Who else?
Group two are the superstars in their field. Think David Heinemeier Hansson created Ruby on Rails. Because of the internet, someone like him can serve a massive audience remotely. So the best in the field capture a huge slice of the market value. It's that winner-take-all effect again.
Right. And the third group?
The third group is, the owners. People with the capital to invest in these new technologies. Like venture capitalists, John Doerr is a good example. When you have something like Instagram selling for $1 billion with only, 13 employees, most of that profit flows back to the capital owners, not labor.
Okay, so for our listeners, for you listening right now, what does this mean? How do you become one of these winners if you're not already a VC?
Well, this is where deep work becomes your superpower, really. It's how you potentially join those first two groups, the high-skilled workers and the superstars.
How so?
Two main reasons. First, deep work helps you learn hard things fast. The economy's changing constantly, new systems, new tech. To stay valuable, you absolutely have to be able to pick up complex stuff quickly.
And that takes focus.
Intense focus, without distraction. Neuroscience actually backs this up. When you concentrate hard, your brain physically changes. It wraps more myelin around the relevant neurons, making those circuits fire faster, cleaner. It's like upgrading your brain's wiring for that specific skill.
So you literally build the capacity to learn better. Like that example of Jason Ben, right? Quit his job, locked himself away for 2 months, learned coding from scratch, aced a tough boot camp, and massively increased his salary. Now he builds his day around focused coding blocks.
Exactly. And the second big benefit is producing at an elite level. Look at Adam Grant at Wharton. Youngest full professor, publishes papers and bestsellers at an absolute crazy rate. How? He batches his intense thinking work into long, uninterrupted stretches. He even uses an out-of-office reply when he's in the office, just to protect that time.
So there's a formula almost.
Yeah, a simple but powerful one. High-quality work produced equals time spent times intensity of focus. You need both, but that intensity multiplier, that's where deep work really shines.
Okay, so connecting the dots. Deep work isn't just about getting more done today. It's about staying relevant, valuable, competitive in this shifting economy.
Absolutely. You could genuinely call it the superpower of the 21st century.
Which makes it even stranger, doesn't it? If it's so valuable, why is it so incredibly rare today? It feels like everything in the modern workplace is actively fighting against going deep.
Oh, it absolutely is. You just have to look around. Take open plan offices. Facebook's giant one, Square's setup, they talk about serendipity, sparking ideas.
Yeah, the water cooler effect.
Right. But study after study shows they mainly just kill concentration. Then there's the constant pinging, instant messaging, Slack, whatever. IBM sends, 2.5 million IMs a day. These tools train your brain for constant context switching, for fragmentation.
And the pressure to be online, visible, even in fields you wouldn't expect, like journalism. That quote from George Packer at The New Yorker was striking, saying it feels irrelevant and demeaning, even devastatingly distracting, to pull serious journalists away from deep work for the frothy back and forth of online tittering.
It really captures the tension, doesn't it? So, okay, why? Why do we embrace these things that actively undermine deep work? It seems to boil down to a few things. First, there's what Cal Newport calls the metric black hole, meaning in knowledge work, it's often really, really hard to measure the actual value of what someone produces moment to moment. Remember that CTO at Atlantic Media, Tom Cochran, he did the math and figured out email processing alone was costing them over $1 million a year in lost productivity. But those costs are invisible usually. They're soft.
So, because it's hard to measure the impact of deep work versus shallow work.
Exactly. We default to what's easiest in the moment. That's the principle of least resistance. Checking email constantly feels easier than tackling a complex problem.
Yeah.
Going to meetings feels easier, or at least more socially acceptable, than locking your door. It gives the appearance of work.
Which leads to that other point. Busyness as a proxy for productivity. If you can't easily show your value, you show how busy you look.
Precisely. Like Marissa Mayer at Yahoo back in the day, banning remote work partly because she wanted people visibly logged in, visibly busy.
Yeah.
It's valuing the appearance over the actual substance of the work.
And then there's this sort of unquestioning worship of technology.
Yeah, the cult of the internet, as some call it.
Yeah.
Neil Postman talked about technopoly, this assumption that if it's high tech, it must be better. We just accept new tools, new platforms, without critically asking if they actually serve our core goals. Deep work often requires rejecting some of that shiny tech, and that goes against the grain. People get pushback, like Jonathan Franzen did for saying novelists maybe shouldn't tweet.
Wow. Okay, so that paints a pretty clear picture of the forces pushing us towards shallowness. It's a bit daunting, actually. So the crucial question for you listening is, how do you possibly escape this? How can you reclaim your ability to go deep?
Well, the good news is you can. It's not easy, but it's possible. And it really starts with consciously deciding on your approach, your sort of depth philosophy.
Okay, like different style.
Yeah, there's no single right way. You could go monastic, like Donald Knuth, the computer scientist who just basically eliminates almost all shallow stuff. Very rare, obviously. Or bimodal. That's where you have distinct periods, like Carl Jung going off to his tower, or Adam Grant cramming his teaching into one semester to free up the other for pure research binges.
Okay, that sounds more achievable for some.
Then there's rhythmic. This is about building a regular habit, a daily routine. Think Jerry Seinfeld writing jokes every single day that don't break the chain method. A fixed time slot for deep work every day.
And the last one.
Journalistic. This is for people whose schedules are maybe more unpredictable. It's about grabbing opportunities for deep work whenever they appear, maybe squeezing in an hour here or 90 minutes there, like Walter Isaacson writing huge biographies while holding down demanding jobs. The point is, you need to figure out which rhythm fits your life and work.
Makes sense. Find your style. What's next?
Embrace what Tim Kreider called productive laziness. This isn't about slacking off. It's about recognizing that downtime, true idleness, is actually essential for your brain. Well, two key reasons from science. One is unconscious thought theory, or UTT. Studies show that for complex decisions, your unconscious mind actually does better work when your conscious mind is distracted by something simple, like during downtime. Your brain keeps processing in the background.
Interesting.
And the other is attention restoration theory, RT. Your ability to focus intensely your directed attention is a limited resource. It gets depleted. Relaxing activities, especially things like walking in nature, they replenish that resource without demanding focus themselves. So strategic downtime makes your next deep work session more effective.
Okay, so deliberately scheduling downtime is key, and part of that is the shutdown ritual.
Yes, this is crucial. At the very end of your workday, take a few minutes, review any open loops, any tasks you haven't finished, make a quick plan for when you'll tackle them. Then, and this is the important bit, mentally declare your day over. Maybe even say a specific phrase out loud like shutdown complete.
Why does that help?
It combats something called the Zeigarnik effect, our tendency for incomplete tasks to dominate our attention. The ritual reassures your brain that everything is captured and planned for, allowing it to fully disengage and recharge instead of buzzing with unfinished business all evening.
Right, letting go properly. Okay, what else?
Here's a really core idea, maybe a bit counterintuitive. Don't take breaks from distraction. Instead, take breaks from focus.
Hang on, say that again.
Instead of scheduling occasional digital detoxes, you should schedule your internet use. Set specific blocks of time when you're allowed to go online. Outside of those blocks, no connectivity. Zero.
Wow, that's hardcore. Why?
Because constantly switching between focused work and quick online checks trains your brain for novelty, for distraction. Scheduling trains it for resistance. Even if your job needs lots of online time, you can schedule frequent, short blocks, say 20 minutes online every hour. The point is the deliberate scheduling and the offline default between those blocks.
And this applies outside work too.
Absolutely. Schedule your home internet use too, if you find yourself constantly reaching for your phone. Just being bored for a few minutes, waiting in line without pulling out your phone? That's become rare, but from a concentration training perspective, it's incredibly valuable.
Okay. This naturally leads to the elephant in the room, social media. The advice here is quit.
Well, quit thoughtfully.
Yeah.
Don't just stay on Facebook because, it helps me connect with old friends. That's the any benefit mindset, justifying a tool because it offers some trivial benefit.
So what's the alternative?
The craftsman approach to tool selection. Think like that farmer, Forrest Pritchard. He had a hay baller.
Yeah.
It offered benefits, sure, but he realized the opportunity cost the time, the maintenance wasn't worth it compared to its impact on his core goal, which was soil fertility. He sold it.
So apply that logic to social media.
Exactly. Use the 80-20 rule, the law of the vital few. First, identify the 2 or 3 absolute highest value activities that drive your professional goals and personal satisfaction. For a writer, maybe it's research deeply and write carefully. For you, it might be something else entirely.
Okay. Identify the core activities. Then what?
Then honestly assess whether a specific social media tool significantly and positively impacts those key activities. Not just does it offer any benefit, but does it substantially help you achieve your most important goals? For someone like author Michael Lewis, probably not. For maybe a community manager, perhaps. Yes, it depends on your core goals.
And there's a practical test for this.
Yeah, the 30-day social media packing party. Pick the services you're unsure about. Quit them cold turkey for 30 days. Don't announce it, just do it. After 30 days, ask yourself 2 simple questions. 1, would the last month have been noticeably better if I'd used this service? And 2, did anyone I care about actually care that I wasn't using it?
So it forces a real, concrete evaluation based on your own experience, not just FOMO, fear of missing out.
Precisely. It cuts through the hype and helps you decide its true value in your life.
Okay, so we've talked about structuring time, managing focus, being selective about tools. What about all the shallow stuff that still fills the day? Emails, meetings?
Right, you need to actively drain the shallows. Remember that software company, 37 Signals? They experimented with 4-day weeks, even a whole month off for deep projects. And they found they got the same or even more valuable work done. It proved a lot of the day-to-day shallow stuff was, dispensable.
So how do we drain our shallows?
One powerful technique is to schedule every minute of your day. Block out time for everything: deep work, shallow work, lunch, email checks.
Every minute. That sounds intense.
It's not about sticking to it rigidly if things change. It's about intentionality. It forces you at the start of the day or the week to actually decide what you'll do with your time rather than just reacting. It makes you ask, what's the best use of this next hour?
Okay, forces intentionality. What else?
Try quantifying the depth of your activities. Ask yourself this question for any task. How long would it take in months to train a smart college grad with no specific background in my field to do this task?
Ah, interesting metric.
Yeah. Editing a complex report might take, say, 50 months of implicit training. Building a standard PowerPoint, maybe 2 months. Attending a routine meeting, maybe 3 months to understand the context. It helps you see clearly what's truly deep, requiring your unique skills, versus what's relatively shallow. Then you can try to bias your time towards the deep stuff.
And fixed schedule productivity.
This is a powerful constraint. Decide you will finish work every day by a specific time, say 5:30 p.m., and stick to it. No exceptions unless it's a true emergency.
How does that help drain the shallows?
It creates scarcity. You know you only have a limited number of hours. It forces you to be ruthless about saying no to low-value requests and incredibly efficient with the time you do have. That Harvard professor, Radhika Nagpal, she maintained a fixed schedule, finished by 5 or 6 p.m. to be with her family, and still achieved huge success getting research on the cover of Science. It forces focus.
Makes sense. Constraint breeds resourcefulness. Finally, becoming hard to reach. That sounds antisocial.
It's not about being rude. It's about managing expectations and flow. Use sender filters on your email or contact page. Tell people who to contact for what and what response time to expect. This manages incoming requests.
Okay.
For outgoing emails, use a process-centric approach. Aim to resolve the issue completely in your reply. Provide all necessary info, ask clarifying questions upfront, define next steps. The goal is to close the loop and prevent endless back-and-forth email chains that clutter your inbox and mind.
And just not responding sometimes.
Yes. Learn the art of the non-response. If an email is ambiguous, irrelevant, or if realistically nothing significantly good will happen if you reply and nothing bad will happen if you don't, consider just not replying. It feels weird at first, but as Tim Ferriss puts it, you have to develop the habit of letting small bad things happen. Otherwise, you'll never protect the time needed for the big important things.
That's a lot to take in, some really challenging ideas there, but it does raise that deeper question you touched on earlier. If doing this deep work isn't just productive, but also satisfying and meaningful, why are so many of us stuck in the shallows?
It's a great question because the evidence suggests deep work isn't just good for your career, it's good for your soul perhaps. Think about craftsmanship. Take Rick Furr, the blacksmith, meticulously recreating Viking swords. It's incredibly hard, physically demanding work, brutish, he calls it. But every single hammer strike is carefully controlled. He finds immense meaning in mastering that complexity. He says, to do it right, it is the most complicated thing I know how to make. And it's that challenge that drives me. Deep work provides that kind of profound challenge and mastery.
So there's a craftsman's joy in it.
Definitely. And there's a neurological argument, too. Remember Winifred Gallagher, the science writer facing cancer? She found that by deliberately focusing her attention on good things, on engaging activities, rapt attention, she called it, she could essentially hijack her own brain. It prevented her attention from constantly looping back to fear or self-pity.
So deep work can shield you from negativity.
In a way, yes. By demanding intense focus, it crowds out the petty anxieties, the stressful background noise, the endless scroll of trivialities. It fills your mental space with the task at hand. Like Gallagher said, the idle mind is the devil's workshop. Deep work occupies that workshop productively.
And psychologically, you mentioned flow.
Right. Melly Csikszentmihalyi's concept of flow, that state where you're so absorbed in an activity, using your skills to the max, that you lose track of time, you lose self-consciousness. It's an optimal experience, and it generates happiness.
And deep work is basically designed to induce flow states.
Exactly. The conditions are perfect, clear goals, immediate feedback, if your code works, if your argument holds, and a balance between the challenge and your skill level, pushing you just slightly.
Yeah.
Our minds crave that state, regardless of what the actual subject is.
Finally, there's a philosophical angle.
Yeah, drawing on thinkers like Dreyfus and Kelly. They argue that in our secular age, craftsmanship offers a path to meaning. The skilled craftsman isn't inventing meaning out of thin air. They're cultivating the skill to discern the meaning and value already present in the materials in the process.
And this applies beyond traditional crafts.
Absolutely. They argue most skilled jobs today, writing, coding, consulting, marketing, are modern crafts.
Yeah.
Through the dedication and focus of deep work, you can tap into that same sense of profound engagement and meaning. You don't need to be working with wood or metal in a barn. You can find it in code, in words, in strategy.
So it really does seem fundamental, like we're wired for depth.
You could almost say we're Homo sapiens depensis. We flourish in depth and we kind of wither in perpetual shallowness. It's not just about productivity. It's about living a richer, more human life.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. Deep work. It's not some relic of the past. It's this incredibly potent force for learning fast, producing truly valuable stuff, and maybe surprisingly, living a more meaningful life.
Right. And in a world that seems increasingly designed for distraction for the shallow, the ability to go deep becomes rarer and therefore even more valuable.
So the final thought, maybe, for you listening is this. Committing to deep work isn't just a productivity hack. It's not just about what you do. It's really about who you become. Are you willing to consciously step back from that constant, comfortable stream of connectivity to build a life that's richer, more focused, more productive, and ultimately maybe more profoundly meaningful? It's a choice.
A powerful choice.
As Cal Newport puts it, I'll live the focused life because it's the best kind there is.